Well, hello, friends. I'm Dave Shirley.
And this is Tammy.
And this is Dave and Tammy in the morning. Well, welcome, everybody. This is Dave.
And this is Tammy.
And we are live here on the Dave and Tammy in the Morning Show. You know, today we're going to talk about marriage, okay? We're going to call it Marriage Episode 1. And we're just going to go through a little series here with you on Dave and Tammy in the morning, and we'll see where that leads. You know, have you been married? Are you married? You know, Tammy, are you married?
Yes.
Yes. How long have we been married?
23 years.
23 years. We got married in April of 2092.
2092, huh?
1992, April of 1992.
Right.
We got married and started our journey in life together as a married couple, as two becoming
one.
And that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today here on the Dave and Tammy show in the morning. You know, William Daugherty?
Daughtry?
Daughtry?
Is it Daughtry? I think it's Daughtry.
Daughtry. I have trouble with that word. Wrote, one of the ironies of contemporary family life is that many people, are good at intentional parenting, but kind of lousy at intentional marriage.
Right.
Okay. Now, what does that mean to you?
It means that, well, they get wrapped up in being a parent.
They get wrapped up in being a parent, but it's intentional to be a parent and then be a good parent.
Right.
Okay, and they put a lot of work into being a good parent.
And the rest kind of falls to the wayside.
And maybe they kind of forget about the marriage. John Eldridge wrote, marriage is a privilege and the honor of living close to the heart as two people can get. What does that mean? Marriage is a privilege and an honor. It's kind of like living as close to the heart as two people can get.
Right.
What does that mean to you? It means that, really, that's kind of like a sacred bond, almost between two people. And that's kind of as close as two people can get.
Right.
Right?
Uh-huh.
Have you ever heard of soulmates? Have you ever heard of people say, I think we're soulmates?
Right.
What do you think about, is there such thing as a soulmate?
I wouldn't say that there's such thing as a soulmate.
So you're saying you're not my soulmate?
Well, you just don't naturally become someone's soulmate, I don't think.
So when we got married and I said, man, I think we're soulmates, that was a fallacy?
It's the word soulmate is, from my understanding, more of a myth, and it takes work to become that.
To become a soulmate. So it's something you just don't order from J.C. Whitney or J.C. Penney.
Correct.
And you order a soulmate.
Right.
Okay, it's a little bit more complicated than
yeah.
that. So we could say that this soulmate philosophy or this soulmate belief is sort of a myth.
Right.
Okay. So let's just play it out here. Let's just imagine for a second that you're standing and there's two people standing in front of you who have successfully navigated, through decades of perhaps life together with years of stress. Okay, there's strife, there's worry, a half a century of bills. Maybe they've been married 40 or 50 years. Okay, they've raised the kids. And after all that time, you look at them and, hey, they seem more happier and in love than ever.
Right.
Okay, and you think, you look at them and they smile and they look at each other and smile, and they're kind of like just two kids, two kids and school kids in love. What would you say was the secret to their marriage longevity and success?
Well, they probably worked together on any issues that might have come up and worked until it was resolved and didn't just quit. Didn't just throw their hands in the air.
So do you think they never had an argument?
Oh, probably. They probably had many arguments in their life.
So they probably had arguments, and things come up that they didn't agree on.
I'm sure.
Okay, so, there's a lot of things that play out in what's the proper word? The portrait
portrait
of your life.
That could be
there
good.
Could be arguments. There could be kids problems. Being married, you face money issues. Where are you going to live? Where are you going to work?
Right.
Who's going to do the chores around and we get into the chores. That's a tough one, because now we're in a society, we're in the age of mom doesn't stay home anymore.
Right.
Mom doesn't even want to stay home in some cases.
Most don't.
There's a lot of women out there that are professionals and not professional homemakers.
Right.
Okay, they're not professional at raising kids as a job.
Right.
They're not professional as a homemaker as a job. They're professionals out there in the workforce, out there in the corporate world.
In addition to
that.
Yeah.
So this comes on as from the parenting role, from the homemaker role, to one of something that has to be mutual, okay, to be shared amongst both of them.
Right.
Okay, because she can't do it alone.
Right.
She doesn't have that time anymore.
Right.
Right. So when she comes home, concessions have to be made and stuff like that, so that the family can go on. Right. And that's just part of the process that families, they go through. And, that's just part of life. You think anything's lost in this process of mom working?
Well, I'm sure there is some.
There's obstacles of who's raising your kids.
Right.
What influences do they have?
Right.
Do they really have your values, or do they have someone else's values?
Right.
And it's hard to order that by the babysitter. Right? Yeah. I want a babysitter with these values.
Right.
Okay, to raise my children. So there's all sorts of things that go into a 50-year relationship, okay, that can be obstacles to overcome in that relationship.
Right.
And mom and dad's both off working, and things get stressful. When you look at people, though, that have been married 40 or 50 years, are you ever tempted just to say, man, those guys are just lucky?
I guess you could be tempted to say that because you didn't see what they've gone through in their 40 or 50 years.
But from the outside, the portrait's finished.
Right. It looks like they could just be lucky, I suppose.
But you don't see all the trials and tribulation that went through painting that perfect picture of a senior marriage.
Right.
I'll call a senior or a seasoned couple. So, there's a lot of stuff goes in there. The fact is, a great marriage is, it just doesn't happen. It's not something that just happens any more than an accomplished artist, as we're talking about art too, paints his portrait or his masterpiece.
Right.
It takes this marriage, wouldn't you agree? It's a masterpiece in the making.
That takes years and years of practice.
There's two brushes that must work as one.
Right.
Okay, did you get that? A man and a woman, both individual brushes in the artwork that must come together as one to paint the masterpiece of the marriage. It's sort of a neat way to look at it. But it's just like any other skill. Marriage, I think marriage takes time. It takes patience. And it takes a willingness, of both parties to almost, it's not even almost, to coexist and grow together. Okay? It's not something that can be one-sided.
Right.
Okay? And, it has to be a dual-sided, it's a marriage. It's a union together.
Right.
What do you think? What do you think about that? Do you have anything there? What is it like for a lady, for a woman?
You mean as far as raising kids go, or being married that long?
Marriage, the family, the whole 9 yards. There's a lot of female emotions. I don't carry the female emotions.
Right. Well, when I know when the kids were little, I wanted to stay home.
Yeah.
But it wasn't feasible, so I had to work.
So you had to work. And how did that make you feel to be forced almost to work when you wanted to stay home with the kids?
That I wasn't being a good parent at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
And did you feel guilty? How long did we date? How long did we date after how long, not really date, a time together, a date night. How long was it after we had children that we actually went out together alone?
It was quite a while.
I mean, 6 or 7 years.
I don't know exactly how long. I know it was quite a while.
It was quite a while because you felt kind of guilty for leaving them.
It's gone all day long, and then
then leave them at a daycare. So it takes work. A lifelong marriage, a happy marriage, it's not built on some fallacy of the soulmate philosophy. I don't believe, whereby chance. Two individuals kind of magically find each other, okay?
Right.
But it's built on years of consistency, okay?
Right.
Devotion to one another.
Right.
And I think it takes a lifetime of dedication, a lifetime of effort, and you could even say probably countless hundreds of untold sacrifices.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you don't tell me everything. I mean, every time I get on your first nerve, you don't tell me. You wait till it's the last one, right?
Right.
But I mean, there's countless times that you just say, "Oh, I'm not even gonna."
It's not worth
that, and he probably didn't mean it, or maybe next time he'll put the lid down on the toilet seat. It can be something as simple, but there's hundreds of untold sacrifices, and it's through the conscious decision, I think, of both parties that they will together they will do whatever it takes to make that marriage work.
Right.
And to be the best marriage that it could possibly be. Would you agree with that?
I would agree.
I think that in marriage you have, it's kind of unique because you have two independent and possibly even strong-willed people. I mean, everybody's different. Mm-hmm. You may have a weak partner and a strong partner, but you could have two I won't say alpha males, but you could have two
alpha-type personalities.
Alpha-type personalities there that decide to get married. And we'd call them strong-willed, coming together and joining in this attempt, to become one. And that can cause its own set of problems. These two may have radical separate forces and radical different spirits within them, as far as their personalities, with each with their own distinct even dreams and identities that all must kind of have to be intermeshed together. But I mean, they have their own thoughts, their own ideals and ideas, about the present circumstances, the future. Each partner, may have their own weaknesses and needs. And at the same time, for some reason, that they stand up there at the aisle, perhaps at the aisle, and say, "Yeah, I'll take you." Okay. And do you think they really know about the challenges that
await them? Probably not.
Probably not. And as you look back over, I mean, even some of our own challenges, is it worth it? Is the I do, was it worth the years of negotiations?
Sure. Yeah.
To come to where we are even today.
Right.
Not necessarily when we've not been married 50 years yet.
No.
So we have a way to go.
We still have some negotiations probably.
Negotiations to do. But conflict is just a matter. It's not if it'll happen. It's only when it will happen. And I know from myself, from Dave and Tammy, that it takes work, and you must work together to grow and grow that marriage into a great marriage. Any marriage, I think, that lasts is bound to have difficulties, and you just have to work together, to solve those. They say the problem in most troubled marriages is that couples get stuck in the problems, in the problems of the marriage, and they just seem to get caught up there in those issues, and a lot of times they don't know how to move forward. They don't get help quick enough. Things get blown out of proportion and just so big before they decide to get help that they just can't. I mean, they can't negotiate that out anymore, and they basically get stuck and are unable to find their way to fix this or to negotiate. Because feelings can only get hurt so many times, right?
Right.
Until it's just. I mean, how many times can you run over the grass before it dies? Huh?
Right.
I mean, you drive over it a few times.
Right.
You drive over it every day, and it'll die.
Right.
Okay, and so you have to. I mean, when you notice you start running over the grass, you got to say, "Well, hey, I need to do something different because that grass is going to die. You're going to kill the grass."
Right.
And it's the same in a marriage. When things happen, sometimes you need to reach out there and get some help to help solve that issue or a fresh perspective, someone that's impartial that can maybe even referee a little bit.
If
Call
if necessary.
foul if it needs to be and go forward. When two people, when they refuse to work together, though, when they refuse to find this cohesion, that sometimes that results in this complicated battleground that I'm kind of talking about, and they just kind of give up, and this is what we want to avoid. Part of the purpose of this podcast, is to bring these things to light and let you know that to be that 40-year-old or 50-year-old couple, there is going to be conflict in your marriage, and there's going to be things that you're going to work for, and there's no such thing as an absolute perfect soulmate. That has to be born out of the marriage.
Right.
Okay, that's something that you have to work together
right.
to do that. I think what most people don't understand, though, is that the only hope of success in the marriage, like I say, is the ability to kind of just turn loose and trust one another. I mean, you have to have this basic understanding, this basic trust, and go through this process of learning to work together, because that's instrumental. It's absolutely instrumental, because you just have to kind of forget that you're a single person.
Right.
Okay, that it's not just you. And you had to work together to mold and shape your relationship, your union, into a strong, meaningful, and rewarding marriage together. What do you think about that?
Right. I agree. You have to work at it.
Yeah. And if it's done right, the marriage can be the most rewarding experience a person can have this side of what I would call eternity.
Right.
Together.
Mm-hmm.
When two souls come together, to form one, they can create this union that I'm talking about, this union of marriage that is far more powerful and magnificent than any other form that they could have, or any other, experience they could have individually,
right,
on their own. Man, I don't know what else can be said, Tammy. What else is on your mind when it concerns marriage? What's one of the things perhaps that you developed in your life? What's one of the things you developed in your life as a result of being married that you think, man, if I just hadn't developed this, I just wouldn't be here today?
I don't know. We were talking about that earlier.
Yeah, you said patience.
I said patience.
Patience. It takes a lot of patience, I for myself, I think, patience is important. But right up there with patience, I think the art of communication and maybe compromise has to be right up there. Do you ever find in marriage that you're having to compromise?
Sure, there's always compromise.
Well, what happens when I want to go to the movie at 8 o'clock on Friday night, and you want to go bowling at 8 o'clock on Friday night?
You guys have to determine which one is a bigger priority for the other person.
The only time that they're showing the movie is this Friday night at 8 o'clock.
Well, you can go bowling anytime.
Oh, so see, there's a way out. You can go bowling anytime.
Yeah.
But it's on a league.
Oh, well then.
And if you miss the league, the whole team's going to have to forfeit that thing.
If the league is something that you...
So let's go through this. The movie's only showing Friday night. Mm-hmm. If it's regular bowling, we could go bowling another night.
Right.
But since it's a league, we really can't.
It's something we committed to probably weeks and weeks ago.
But the movie will come out on DVD.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking.
Okay.
You can watch it later.
So it's a matter of reprioritizing and compromising, but we have to communicate through the process. You could just get pissed, right?
I suppose.
And say, you mean to tell me I'm going to miss my league bowling for your movie,
right?
That you don't need to see,
right?
Okay, and if that angered you, then we might not ever get to the point of the compromise
and doing either one of them.
We might not do either one of them. We might not get to the point of the compromise of realizing that the movie will actually come out
on DVD.
On DVD.
Right.
And so we could compromise and actually in a lot of circumstances, get this to a place to where we both, in some way, win.
Right.
Okay, maybe not perfectly,
right,
but enough that you can coexist and be happy and live with the outcome.
Right.
That no one totally loses.
Right.
In the situation, and that's what we kind of want to do. You know, do you think it took time to develop this?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, for me, for communication and compromise, I mean, I say, you know, I developed it through countless instances of failure.
Right. Well, that's the only way you learn.
Okay. And kind of maybe even battles, you know, that ended up just proving that communication and compromise were the only solution.
Right.
To those problems. Mm-hmm. You know, are you encouraged to see a couple that's happily married after 50 years?
Sure.
You know,
yeah.
I kind of think that they must have learned, still it's back to me, the art of compromise and communication, you know, early in the relationship. They must have come across the need to really learn those two things.
Yeah.
How about forgiveness?
Well, absolutely.
I mean, is it? Do you think it's important in a marriage, even if it's not my fault? Okay, sometimes things happen from your perspective or my perspective, and I say, man, it's just her, you know, and it's just the female hormone acting up. This is really not my fault, but and so I can feel offended.
But you need to forgive in a way that's not begrudging.
Not begrudging, but I need to forgive you, even if it's not my fault, even if it is. That circumstance, I mean, I need to forgive you for that.
Right.
Okay, regardless of what it is, I don't need to hold anything against you to the next day, to the next minute, to the next hour.
Right.
So I need to be forgiving as quickly as possible. Mm-hmm. Okay, and that goes along with temperament. Mm-hmm. Okay, sometimes your temperament, you know, and I think it's better. I mean, I don't condone running away, but I think it's better to walk away sometimes. If the stuff starts to get heated, there's no reason to stay there and make it more heated. When you can walk outside, you can walk around the house, you can walk the dog, you can go get a Diet Coke, and just give a little breather room, just a little time to cool off. I mean, when stuff gets heated, it's heated.
Okay.
And there may be times when you just need to breathe, and let the other person breathe, and that way, because things that are spoken in anger tend to get held on to. Mm-hmm. Okay, especially if they're negative, they really get held on to, and it can almost be used as a weapon, mm-hmm. you know, later in life. Mm-hmm. So, you know, but it takes time. I think it takes time and effort to develop a meaningful, long-lasting relationship. What do you think some of the most important skills might be to develop a strong marriage? What do you think? I mean, a couple of things come to mind for me. What about you?
That kind of goes back to what we were talking about, communication.
Communication, you know, communication, one form or the other, you know. How about two-sided communication? I think you had that down there in your notes, mm-hmm. Two-sided communication. So, I mean, some of the things I thought was throwing away blame.
Right.
Okay, I mean, in a marriage, if it's two becomes one, does it matter whose fault it is?
Right.
I mean, and that's something else. Everything that I do, and in marriage, this is really critical because everything you do affects the other person. Mm-hmm. Name one thing that I do that doesn't have any effect on you. 3 seconds. One.
I don't know.
There's not many things out there in a marriage, okay, that doesn't affect the other person. Everything I do, everything I say, whether I come home at night, whether I get a paycheck, all of this stuff, what mood I'm in affects you.
Yeah.
And it's vice versa. You know, I already said, you know, compromise in a way where you both win. Okay. Learn to forgive each other early. Okay. And perhaps even loving without exception or unconditional, you know, is never forget to love that person and to give them that warmth and care and those emotional feelings that they need. Well, that's even regardless of the situation.
Well, that's even more so important. You talked about mood, loving them regardless of what you're going to get in return, because they might not be in a mood to even be bothered with on any given day.
Right.
because they had a hard day at work or they had a whatever, you still need to.
And I understand that. And that's one of the, I mean, that's so important. But it's also important to realize that person at home did not do anything to you that day.
Oh, I know.
Huh?
I know that. I'm just saying.
But it's hard to remember that. It's hard for me to remember that. It's possibly hard for you to remember that. It's whatever happened at work or whatever happened in another situation.
If you had a hard day, whether at work or wherever else,
yeah,
and it just emotionally brought you down.
It emotionally brought you down.
You're not going to be that happy-go-lucky.
You're not going to be, but it's important, I think, to realize when you get home, the short temper that you might have, not saying that you do by any means. I'm saying that was not brought about by that person.
Right, exactly.
So the moral of this story is I can't take my baggage from work and dump it on the person at home.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. If I need to take a breather between home and work,
right.
a 15-minute walk in the park to refresh myself.
Right. Take the scenic route.
To do some emotional cleansing.
Yeah.
I can't come home and trash my husband or my wife with emotional baggage that's left over from work.
Right.
Okay, because they didn't ask for it. They don't deserve it.
They weren't even there.
I mean, even though they're a partner and they're for better or for worse, I mean, I think we can clean up our mess a little bit before we get home.
Yeah.
That way we don't just come home and trash them, in the process.
Right.
Why do you think, back to the soulmate, why do you think so many people's bought into this whole soulmate myth? Is it the movies? Is it the love movie?
Oh, it could
the
be.
Romance
that
movie
fairy tale.
That's everything's perfect and the girl's perfect. And she never, when she has a kid, the next scene she's 100 pounds again.
Is that fairy tale that the movies portray? It's
a fairy tale, and it takes years and years of practice, to get things right. But I think in the end, there's this thing, in many ways, marriage is like two big rivers, verging together, coming together, and the currents are intermixing. And out of the outpour of these two rivers, you just have this joining together.
Right.
Okay, and you have this, everything that's coming in. And it takes a lifetime. It takes a lifetime for the two to become one. It's not an overnight process. And it may be easy. It may be hard. And one week it may be easy, next week it may be hard. But I think when you say I do, you have that obligation and that duty to do everything it takes to make that marriage the best that it possibly can be.
Right.
Well, friends, I'm Dave.
And I'm Tammy.
We want to thank you for visiting with us today here on the podcast for our Marriage Episode 1 podcast. This is Dave and this is Tammy for Dave and Tammy in the Morning.